Hey everybody, Kris Gethin here, quarantined in my kitchen because, as you know, with the coronavirus, a lot of us are now quarantined home or our gyms have closed down. A lot of people are freaking out, contacting me saying, what can I do? And I know that there's a lot of you following one of my programs or another program, or especially the 12-week lean muscle video trainer that is on cagedmuscle.com, and there's only a couple of weeks left, and some of you are doing so well and you continue to do well and you will not stop. The reason being because you can continue to train at home without any equipment whatsoever. If you've got dumbbells, a kettlebell, resistance bands, great, that's awesome. You can use that. But I'm going to put you through an entire full body workout today without any equipment needed whatsoever. We are going to split those muscle groups up though. So for instance, if you have shoulders to do on your particular program on this day, follow the shoulders that I'm going to put you through. If you have legs, you can go through the leg exercises that I'm going to show you. Same with back, biceps, triceps, every muscle group. But let's begin with shoulders. I'm going to use water bottles here. Now you need to stay as focused here at home as you would at the gym, if not more so, because you can have distraction at home. People are going to be there. Put your phone away. Make sure that you go to a room that's quiet. Take your pre-workout as you normally would to stay focused and get a better mind-muscle connection and pump, because chances are you're not going to be training with the same amount of resistance that's available to you at the gym. So you want to stay focused and you want to get that mind-muscle connection and stay pumped. So we're going to start off with side raises. I am going to use water bottles here. You can use shopping bags full of canned goods. You can use bags of flour, whatever you can find as some form of resistance. Now you'll do the same amount of reps, the same amount of sets as you usually would. However, you're probably going to have to double, triple, quadruple the amount of reps because you've only got so much resistance available to you. To increase the intensity, lower the rest periods. However, go to absolute failure with every set. So failure may be at 15 usually in your program. You may have to find failure at 40, 50, 60 reps. What matters most is that you create stress. So side raises to begin with. Now you'd straighten your arms a little bit more as you would than on a normal side raise because you've only got so much resistance, so you want to create more leverage. Going to go out to the side and then back down, up and then down. Really focusing on that mind-muscle connection to hit the lateral head of your delts. Okay, so you may have to go a little bit faster with the reps, but control the negative and get that mind-muscle connection. That's why it's so important that you have your pre-workout in you and you have no distraction whatsoever. You need to be intense with this workout. You're going to hit the amount of reps that is required for you to go to absolute failure. Can't do any more? Great. Okay, now only rest for about 30 seconds maximum because you need to create more intensity while you're at home. Okay, now we're going to do the same but for rear raises. So for a side profile shot, I'm going to bend over, arms straight and out to the sides, keeping my shoulder blades flat, focusing on the rear delts, coming to the sides, elbows pointing up, and again, going to absolute failure. You'll notice that I don't allow the jugs to come together here because that will create more momentum. I want to make it harder by allowing constant tension applied to the rear delts. Wow, I'm going to pump during this already, so you can do this. There's no reason why you can't. Now, to hit the anterior head of the delts, both arms together, because that's going to make it a little bit harder than doing unilateral. So we're going to go bilateral here, both arms at the same time. Just slightly above eye line. And then back down. Again, the amount of sets that are required, but to absolute failure with every set. Yeah, I'm getting a pump, baby. Check me out. Okay, now with shoulder press, there's a couple of alternative movements that we can do here. You can either, or both, do shoulder press like this, like I'm doing with the water bottles here. I'm going to get more quality gains on my right side because I've got amino synergy in this bad boy. Okay, and the other alternative exercise is, you can put your feet against a wall here or cabinet in this case, and you're going to go down at an incline to try to mimic like a shoulder press machine. So hands slightly wider than the shoulder width apart, and press up. You're going to use your upper body weight as your resistance. And that is shoulders done. So keep it very intense, keep it hard, and smash it. Remember, you will transplant this into the program that you are working at the moment for your particular shoulder workout. Now let's move on to the next muscle group in a different part of the kitchen. Yo, now we're in a different part of my kitchen, which is my home gym. Anywhere can be a gym, nature can be the gym, but we're going to do it in the kitchen. We got chest now, we're going to smash, so we can still get our flex on. So I'm going to start off with the hardest part of this movement, and that is the incline. So when you're hitting your upper pecs, you're always going to be weaker than say your mid portion or the lower portion. So I'm going to start off to make it hard by hitting the upper portion of my pecs, and that's usually the portion of the pecs that people are lacking in anyway, so we're going to prioritize that area. So let's say you've got incline press to do in your workout, this is what we're going to do. However, if you have incline flies as well, you're just going to double up on press. So let's say you've got 4 sets of incline press to do and 4 sets of incline flies, and you can't do flies at home. Perfect, just do 8 sets, okay? Your muscles aren't gonna know that much of a difference. All it is gonna understand is stress and absolute failure to break down this tissue, okay? Now you may have to do a lot more reps than what is in your program, but that doesn't matter. You're just gonna absolute failure, okay? So I'm gonna start off with my feet elevated on this cabinet here. Hands on the floor. Okay, now this is going to mimic my body being at an incline on a bench, and I'm going to come down, press up, like that. Now I'll explode up a little bit harder because the pecs are designed for an explosive nature. Breathing out on the way up. I don't lock out my elbows because I want to keep constant tension applied on my pecs. Hey buddy, you got to do them with me. Give me a spot. If you've got a dog to give you a spot, then perfect. Okay buddy, thank you for that. I couldn't have done it without you. Now that's incline pecs done. Now I'm going to target the mid portion of my pecs with the conventional push-up. And we'll see if Slate will give me a spot here as well. Place buddy. Okay, so now I'm going to do a conventional flat push-up. After I've done my incline, I go straight to flat. This is going to target my mid-fibers. And if you've taken your pre-workout, you are going to get a crazy pump here as well because the intensity, when I say intensity, keep your rest periods down to about 45 seconds maximum to keep it hard and intense. So now I've done that for my upper and lower, going to failure with every single set. Sorry, upper and mid. Now I'm going to go to lower. So you can do this on a cabinet or on a chair. Your body is going to be inclined to target the decline, the lower portion of your pecs. There, so I make sure that my lower pecs come down to the bench and then I'm sticking my chest out, retracting my shoulders, so I can really target my pecs without bringing in my anterior delts. And that would be it for pecs. Now, if you do have resistance bands at home, not everyone does, there's no reason why you still cannot do your flies. You can actually lie on a bench, you could squeeze, you could do a superset straight after you've done a press. There's lots of alternative methods that you can do. Remember, if you do have dumbbells or kettlebells at home, you can still do a lot of the exercises in your program. However, if you don't, this is the alternative. And I love this because the best of us usually comes out with challenges. When there's challenges in front of us, it's up to us to kind of fall behind and to the wayside, or we take that challenge full on. And that should motivate you, because it's up to you to control your environment and not get controlled by it. That is pecs done. I'm out of breath. Let's move on to the next muscle group. So we're going to be hitting biceps and triceps in our living room now. So back to the bottles, but if you've got resistance band, kettlebells, dumbbells, you can use them. But same principle applies. What I'm going to do is start off with the reverse grip curls, because they're a little bit more difficult. You won't be able to go as heavy, and it'll allow you to pre-fatigue before you go to your strongest part, which is the normal bicep curl, okay? So with all of these exercises, we're going to use both arms at the same time to make it a little bit harder. If you go unilateral, one arm at a time, it's a little bit too easy, okay? So we want to make it difficult in the home. So I'm going to come up, reverse grip curl, and down. That's going to target the coreobrachialis. It's going to target the forearm flexors. No, extenders, sorry, I'm getting mixed up here. And you're going to come up to your chin and back down. Don't allow the arms to go completely straight, because we want to keep constant tension placed upon the biceps. Now you may end up doing 50, 60, 70 reps. I've got half-gallon jugs here. If you've got gallon jugs, great. Whatever you can utilize, that's what you use, okay? Once I've done that, I'm going to go then into my hammer curls, okay? So let's say if you've got 4 sets or 5 sets to do of these curls, fine, do 4 or 5 sets, but do a different rep range. That rep range has to be the failure, okay? Then up, forearms, here, thickening those biceps. Now you can come straight up and straight down. Some people like to come across the body. Doesn't really matter, whatever's most comfortable for you and whatever is going to allow you to get a good mind-muscle connection. Now you only need to be resting for about 25-30 seconds between these sets to really create as much stress and load onto the biceps as much as possible. Once you've done the required amount of sets and reps there, you're going to go to your conventional curls. Again, both arms at the same time. I suggest that you don't curl your arms in to allow assistance from the forearms. I'd say extend your hands out, because it will make it so much tougher and you'll get a much better pump in doing so. If you've got a mirror, utilize that mirror so you can check your form and allow you to get better connection with the muscle group that you're looking at. Okay, so that's biceps done. Then we're going to move on to triceps. Now we're going to be doing a lot of compound movements or pressing movements, because it's going to be a little bit harder to do extending movements, but we're going to start off with one extending movement that we can definitely do. There's several extending movements that we can do with the bottle here, but sometimes it can be a little bit too easy, and we can utilize our body weight to make it a little bit harder. So using one arm at a time, you're going to bend over and do a kickback, a conventional kickback here. So squeeze and then back, squeeze and then back, squeeze and then back. Now if you're like me and you don't really like kickbacks that much, I find it very hard to get a good mind-muscle connection, you can actually do an overhead extender. So you can overhead extend like that. Make sure that the bottle goes right behind the head and you press directly up, working the long head of the tricep. So you do one side, reach absolute failure, then go to the other side and then immediately go back. There's no reason why you need a rest. You'll rest one arm when you're doing the working arm. Okay, so once you've done one side, go straight to the other, go to absolute failure, and then you'd swap back until you get the required amount of sets out and obviously go into failure with your reps. Now with the compound movements, I'm going to use this table here. I'm going to do dips. So you can have your feet elevated, obviously, to make it harder like you would at a bench at a gym. If you've got another bench or stool like I've got there, and you're going to go down and press. Down, press, squeeze at the top, lock it out, get a good contraction, target the middle head of your triceps. to absolute failure. Now, the fourth exercise, or third or fourth, however many that you want to do within this workout, is going to be a close grip push-up, okay? So when it's a close grip, your hands are going to be shoulder width apart. Elevate your upper body into a plank position, okay? And you're going to come down so your hands are just below your lower pecs and then back up, making sure that your elbows are tucked in tight. And squeeze at the top, slowly on the negative, and push up hard on the contraction. Contract, and push up hard on the concentric, up, and slow on the eccentric. Ooh. Whew. And that's your triceps done. Remember, as I said, if there are more exercises in the program that you've got to do, just double up on the sets on one or two of these exercises to ensure that you still get the amount of sets required that is in your program. But your reps will probably be out of the window because you'll be going much higher in them. That's biceps and triceps done, baby. And I am still out of breath from these other muscle groups, but I'm going to show you how to do legs now, so I'm really going to get out of breath. There's a lot that we can do with legs just with compound movements here. And there's going to be one that we'll use for hamstrings that will really isolate that area, and I want to do that first before we go into the compound so we can pre-fatigue that area. And that's going to be our Romanian deadlift. Okay, so Rdls. I'm going to grab hold of the resistance. As I've mentioned in other videos, if you've got resistance bands, if you've got kettlebells, you can use them. If you've got gallon jugs, I've got half gallons here, you can use them. You can use shopping bags with canned goods. So I'll show you the profile picture of this. So I will have my legs, usually I like to have them locked. Some people have them slightly bent. Whatever is most comfortable for you that allows you to get a good mind-muscle connection. So this is what I'm going to do. Keeping these bottles very close to my thighs and my shins. I'm going to drag my butt back, go down, get a good stretch, and then up. Down, get a good stretch, and then up. I am driving through my heels when I do this exercise, and I'm visualizing steel cables in the back of my hamstrings and glutes, pulling my back up and then allowing it to stretch down. Up and then down. Now you may find yourself doing 50, 60, 70 reps of this exercise, especially on the first set, but that's absolutely fine. As long as you reach absolute failure, and this will be a good opportunity for you to focus on your mind-muscle connection, so when you do go back into the gym, you won't have to utilize half the amount of weight as you usually do, because you're recruiting more muscle fibers just by focusing and thinking about them. So breathe out on the way up and breathe in on the way down. Then you're only going to rest for about 45 seconds maximum to make it harder on the second, third and fourth, or how many sets that you've got there. But you must train to absolute failure. Once hamstrings are done there, we are now going to move on to our compound movements. Okay, so let's say leg extensions is in your next set or next exercise for you to do. You're just going to do a squat. However, your feet are going to be very close together, and you're going to allow your legs to, your knees to slightly drive over your toes, much like a hack squat. The reason being is that's going to target your quads a little bit more than your hamstrings and your glutes, okay? So to pre-fatigue that area. Again, we're going to use these bottles as resistance. But if you've got kettlebells, you've got dumbbells, you've got a barbell, you can do that as well. So I'm going to go down and then back up. Now you'll notice I won't lock out my knees at the top because I want to keep constant tension applied to my quads. Now you may be able to go a little bit deeper on this exercise than me. I've got very, very tight Achilles tendons, and when I squat down, my back tends to go forward. So I don't go that far. I only go until my hamstrings are parallel to the floor before coming back up. Okay, I'll show you the side profile picture here of this movement. Feet are about fist distance apart, if that. Slowly on the negative, constant tension applied by not locking out. Okay, and I can feel that in my quads already. Okay, so that'd be for your quads. Now, to target a little bit of your hamstrings and glutes, we're going to go into a little bit more of a sumo stance here. Okay, so this is slightly wider than shoulder width. Bottles will come to the inside, so you could call this like a goblet squat or prison squat. And you're going to go, or you could hold them like that, whatever's most comfortable. You're going to come down and up. Again, do not lock out the knees at the top. This time you're going to be driving more through your heels as opposed to your toes to target more your hamstrings, glutes, and that hamstring tie-in that you can see from the side, separating your quads and your hammies. Okay, so there's various types of squats you can do there. Obviously you can all do in between those, and that would be a shoulder width as well. Next movement I'm going to show you though is going to be a lunge. Now you can do a walking lunge dependent on the size of your house if you're going to do it outside, or you can do a static standing lunge, which I'm going to demonstrate for you now. I'm out of breath, baby. Okay, I'll show you from the front and I'll show you from the side. But this is going to target a little bit your glutes and your hamstrings. There's going to be two alternative versions of this. First, we're focusing on glutes and hamstrings by going with a slightly wider stance. We're going to go down and then up, like that. So make sure that your knee doesn't travel over your toe, but make sure it's aligned with your toe. All right, knee, rear knee almost touches the floor, and then back up. Once you've done one side, you go to the other. I'll show you from a side profile. Is that okay there? Driving through my heel, targeting my hamstring, targeting my glutes. Now I'm going to do the same, however, this time I'm going to transfer the stress from my glutes and hamstrings a little bit more onto my quads. The way that I do that is by bringing in that stance a lot closer. So this rear knee will be aligned with my front toe when I go down like that, okay? So you can see very close stance, down and then up, driving all my weight through this front leg, particularly through the front of my foot to target my quads. So if you have hack squats or leg extensions in your program, and obviously you cannot do that, this is a great movement to do to target those same muscle groups. If your legs aren't completely destroyed after this workout and you're not feeling it the next day, you haven't gone to failure. You can do this at home with plenty of stress, plenty of resistance, plenty of intensity that's created from the neck up to transfer obviously to the neck down for you to really get good results from these at-home workouts. You just need to control your environment and not get controlled by it. Next workout, next body part we're going to go into is back, baby. Hello everyone, we are in our beanbag room in the Kris, Gethin and Sunshine household. We would have gone into the bedroom, but there's just too many chains, whips, handcuffs, you know how that goes. So in the beanbag room, we're going to be hitting back here. So this is going to be a little bit more difficult than any other muscle group because number one, your back is extremely strong and it's very hard for a lot of people to get that mind-muscle connection. So you have to have no distraction. Make sure that you have your pre-workout in use to allow you to get a better mind-muscle connection and pump, and you're going to have to focus on creating resistance as opposed to the resistance that you're holding in your hands because you're only going to have so much. If you've got dumbbells or kettlebells at home or resistance band, great, use it. If you don't, use whatever's available to you. Shopping bags with canned goods, bags of flour. You shouldn't have bags of sugar in your house, so I'm not going to mention that. Or gallon jugs, or in this case, half-gallon jugs. We are going to start off with a single arm row today with this exercise. So for back, this is going to target a little bit of your lats because you're going to be coming back by your hip here. Obviously, you'll get a little bit of trap involvement as well, but we're focusing on lats here. So you're going to take a step forward. You're going to lean onto your knee here, You know, bend over so you're at like a 40-degree angle, and you're going to row past your hip. You're going to squeeze as hard as you can and try not to focus on the resistance that you're holding in your hand. Try to think about squeezing your lats as hard as you possibly can. Visualize the anatomy of the lats. Squeezing those muscle fibers back. You've got that Christmas tree appearance when you squeeze it back. So that's what I want you to focus on. Breathing out on the way up. Breathing in on the way down. Keeping your back slightly arched but mostly straight so you can fire your lats. Once you've done one side, then you're immediately going to move to your other side before you then immediately move back, because there's no reason to rest in between any of these sets, because you want to create more stress, load and resistance through intensity, i.e. very short rest periods. Now you may have to go very high in reps, 50, 60, 70, 80, doesn't matter. Forget about the number, just find failure. You need to find failure in order to succeed. And then you'd immediately move back to the other side. Once you've done the required amount of sets on that movement, now we're going to move on to what's called our trap rows. You're going to use both arms at the same time here. So, same sort of angle as we did before. However, instead of rowing back like this, we're going to row out. So the elbows are flaring out to the side. Your back is going to be more parallel to the floor now. You're going to come up, squeeze, and then down. Squeeze and down. Wherever your elbows are pointing is the part of the back that you are going to target. So in this case, it's going to be the mid portion of the traps. And down. You'll notice that I'm pausing, contracting at the top to make it difficult. And I tell you what, it is getting difficult now. Would you believe it? And then slowly down, not completely straightening the arms because I want to keep constant tension applied to the traps. Now, we move on to the upper traps by doing an upright row, both arms at the same time, again, elbows pointing up to target the upper portion of our traps. Now, we probably won't have enough resistance here to do shrugs, but if you do have dumbbells or resistance bands that will make it hard enough for you, then you can do that. If you don't, and you have bottles like me, you can do upright rows. So again, you'll notice my arms do not go down straight. They don't lock out at the bottom because I want to keep the tension on my traps and not use any bicep flexion or lessen the bicep flexion. Elbows pointing up. Do not allow your hands to go higher than your elbows. Your elbows need to be high to target your traps here. Now again, failure. Whether that means 50, 60 reps, doesn't matter. Lessen that rest period to about 30 seconds when you're doing these exercises with both arms at the same time, and then go again till you reach failure. Last exercise for back here is going to be the deadlift. So, legs slightly bent, and you're going to go down and drive through your heels and then back up. Again, you'll notice that I'm not locking out my legs at the top and not being completely straight at the top because I want to keep all the tension on my lower back. Now, it doesn't matter if you're going to go high reps. What matters is that you go to failure. Here, keeping your back straight, focusing on your lumbar, your erectors that run either side of the spine, keeping constant tension, focusing on squeezing your core at the same time, breathing out on the way up and breathing in on the way down. Whew. And that's back, baby. And we got one more muscle group to do, and that's going to be abs. All right. Last muscle group that I'm hitting today. Now, if you have abs in your program, these are the exercises that you can do. Chances are you're not going to use so many machines at the gym anyway, so this should be a very easy transition. There's so many exercises that we can do for abs, it is crazy. So by the time we get out of this quarantine, everyone should have six-pack abs because you can completely obliterate them here. So we're going to start off with the conventional sit-up here. Conventional sit-up is coming up and then down. Breathing out before coming up and then down. Breathing out and then down. Okay, That's your conventional sit-up. You can go to absolute failure there. Once you've reached failure, you can then immediately go into a conventional crunch, which is like this. Fist distance space between your chin and your chest, and then down, and then down. Just take the weight of your head. There's no reason to cup your fingers behind and pull on your head, and then down. What you're trying to do is shorten the distance between your sternum and your pelvis, then extend it. Shorten it, then extend it. That should be your mind-muscle connection. And then another exercise that we can do will start to target the obliques. Okay, so we're going to put one ankle on top of the opposite knee, and then this elbow will come up to the opposite knee. So you'd come across like this, and then down. Breathe out, on the way up, and then down. Breathe out, and then down. And down, and then you'd swap to the other side. And down. And because the abs recover very, very quickly, you only need to rest about 45 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds between every set. And you're not counting the reps now. You're making the reps count, and you're just training to absolute failure with each one of these sets. Another exercise that you can do is a sit-up with an oblique twist. So you come up there, and then to the opposite side and down. There, and then down. Okay, so there's several exercises we can do there. We can also flip onto our front and do a conventional plank. So we can just hold this conventional plank by sucking in your belly button, staying completely flat. Don't lift your ass up. Keep it just a couple of inches off the floor, and you'd hold it there for a static hold for as long as you possibly can. Then what we can do as well is have a little a more advanced principle to that plank by bringing your opposite, bringing your right knee towards your right elbow and then down, and then left knee towards your left elbow and down, like that. Breathe out on the way up, and down, and down, and down, and down. Okay, so there's several exercises that you can do there. Now, if you happen to have a foam roller, you can use this or wrap up a towel so you can extend that range of motion to those crunches. Because if you want to make crunches a little bit harder, if you are one of those people that do so many crunches and you find it hard to get that mind-muscle connection, this can really help. So you'd put this under your lower back, okay? And you'd use that as your resistance to come up and crunch. It really does accentuate that contraction at the top because you're coming from a fully extended position. So give that a shot. So at the end of these workouts, you would treat it like any other workout at the gym. You'd have your post-workout protein, your recaged, you isolate straight after this workout and recover, and then focus on the next day. You should be sore after every single one of these workouts because you are taking the muscle group to failure and you're breaking down that muscle tissue. But what is the point of you breaking down that muscle tissue if you're not able to rebuild it? Make sure that you keep your glutamine levels topped up. You're eating as healthy as you possibly can to keep your immune system up, and make sure that you stay hydrated. Quite often when we're in a routine as normal at work, we're doing everything perfect by the clock. Now, if you are at home, if you're not going to the gym, it's easy to sleep in. Do not fall for that. Stick to your regular schedule to ensure that you can continue to evolve, because this time will pass. It may get a little bit worse before it gets better. However, there's no reason why you should get worse before getting better. So continue to evolve. If you do have any questions for me, please do ask them below. I'll be happy to answer them for you. And let's keep each other accountable. Stay transparent, and let's have that sense of urgency, because we'll be back in the gym before you know it. Thank you very much for joining me, and hope you enjoy these home workouts.